Chaos Walking has been in development hell for such a long time, but it stars the likes of Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland, so it's gotta be good, right? What's going on, buddy? My name is Zach, and welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're going to be discussing Chaos Walking, which takes place in a dystopian world where there are no women, and all living creatures can hear each other's thoughts in a stream of images, words, and sounds called The Noise. This is directed by Doug Liman, and it stars the likes of Tom Holland, Daisy Ridley, Demian Bichir, David Oyelowo, Cynthia Erivo, Mads Mikkelsen, Nick Jonas, and even Kurt Sutter. I'm quite interested in this one for a lot of different reasons. I love the cast, I love the director involved with this, and the premise itself seems very interesting. I like a good new sci-fi venture, and Chaos Walking is a sci-fi adventure for sure. But it's one that has been stuck in development hell for such a long time. It feels like we've heard about this film over 3 to 4 years ago, and it's finally coming out this Friday. And the main thing that I gotta say is that I think it turned out fine. I think it turned out plenty fine. I think there's some good things to it. I think there's some bad things to it, and there are some things in the middle of the road that we're definitely gonna have to discuss here. The most important part about all of this stuff, guys, is that I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. So are you guys gonna be checking out Chaos Walking this week? Did you read the book? Have you already seen it? Let's discuss it all down there in the comment section. I really need to hear your guys' thoughts on this one. While you're down there, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for all sorts of early movie reviews like this on a daily basis. But with every movie review of mine, let's start with the pros. And the main pro that I have with Chaos Walking is how beautiful it is to look at. This is a gorgeous film shot in all handheld style. And I think that was a great thing that Doug Liman was able to do, especially with the venture that they are going on in this dystopian world that we are taking place in. The movie, the landscape, everything of that nature is just stunning and very much sticks out and brings you and immerses you into this world alone. If we're just counting it on cinematography, it is gorgeous. And again, the direction to take this into a handheld camera. I'm pretty picky when it comes to handheld, but I think they did a really good job with it in here, and I was very impressed with the way that they were able to kind of slide the camera back and forth and really much infuse ourselves within each and every moment. Even with that said, this is a very interesting premise. I love the premise, the fact that like you can hear every single person's thoughts and the way that it kind of comes around, and there were some cool interesting ideas within there, and even the effects of how they did it were splendid and really gorgeous as well. And again, added to that cinematography, it kind of has this neon flare-ish look that really stuck out and made a memorable experience for me within those elements. The casting here is pretty good as well. They are doing as best as they can with the material in their hands. And I think one of the things that I really want to press out there is Daisy Ridley in here. Really surprised me. I was wondering how she was going to do adapting this because I haven't seen her in anything other than Star Wars, and I thought she did a pretty good job. Out of all the performances between her and Mads Mikkelsen, they were easily the two shining stars. That doesn't mean Tom Holland wasn't good in here. I think he plays a typical Tom Holland role, and even the likes of Demian Bichir, who actually has a really good part in here. David Oyelowo is actually quite scary as well, and Nick Jonas plays Nick Jonas. In fact, the majority of the cast in here I feel like was very much playing typical parts that they have very much played before. And you can take that as a pro or a con, you know? It didn't immerse me into the experience because of their performances, it was more because of the world and the mythology. That's kind of where it brings me down into the middle of the road sort of stuff. Like I said, the premise of this is really cool, and the effects and all the interesting elements of how like people can hear your thoughts and see your thoughts, but that can get in the way of a lot of different things because the usage of it is actually cool. But then it gets a little bit too much at times, especially when it comes down to Tom Holland's character, who I liked his performance, but his character in the way that it was written was very much narrated, and every time he would talk, you would hear his voice, and it would overplay it. And 85% of the time, it was like either his voice was talking or he was talking, and it kind of took my head for a spin for quite a bit. I think, yes, I know this is based off a novel, and I think a novel, it would work very well, but I think in a movie, you need to kind of execute it in a little bit of a different way. Maybe change the mythology just a bit, or even tone back on it just a ton. Because for me, again, it just felt like Tom Holland talking to himself. And, you know, the way that he's talking to himself is very realistic. The way that he was thinking is how I would probably be thinking in these scenarios. But still, it can get quite annoying and again takes my head for quite a spin. But I'm in the middle because I like the premise, but I just wish they would have tinkered it just a bit. And that's though when it comes down to my cons for this film, because I think their exposition in here is quite heavy at times, and that's not to say with the characters, because when it comes down to the characters, they're very surface level attempted. And that's why I said they did the best that they could with the material written here for them. I think the script is actually probably the part of the film that feels the weakest for me. Every moment in here, I didn't feel like I had a reason to root for these characters other than the fact that it was Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley playing these characters. And it's fun. It's entertaining to watch them running through on this adventure to see where they could possibly go and what the concept of it all is. But I was just expecting a little bit more from their characters than just that surface level attempt to make me care about them. And that's just to say about everyone in here. I like the people in here because I like the performances and the actors playing them, not because of the way that they were written. And I always look at a film in two different ways. There's two different ways you can look at it. Sometimes the script can elevate that, sometimes the actors can elevate that, and when they're both syncing at the same time, it can go to that next level. Not here, though. And even then, I know that there were a lot of reshoots on this, and I can definitely tell where the reshoots hit. And there were quite a couple of times where I'm like, yeah, this definitely feels like they did a reshoot shot here. You can tell that this film did have issues because certain moments felt rushed. Certain moments feel like they needed more time to marinate. And for an hour and 44-minute movie, I feel like there was a lot more that could have been explored inside this. There's one moment in particular that, for animal lovers, just be warned. I always gotta warn animal lovers because I love animals, and there's one moment in here in particular that kind of took me off guard. I didn't expect that, and I was like, ugh, I don't know how to feel about that. There's another sci-fi element in here that I don't want to spoil, and it comes in and it leaves. And they never really went back to it, and I kind of wish they would have, because it was an interesting thing that I think they should have touched on a little bit more. Again, going back to that surface level attempt of everything else. House Walking is a fine movie, but it's one that I weirdly was still entertained by. If you remember movies like Push and Jumper, two movies that I think are pretty entertaining, but have a lot of issues to them, that's kind of how I feel with Chaos Walking. I'm mixed overall in the entire film, but I didn't leave feeling like I wasted my time with it, because I think the cast in here is great. I think it's a really beautiful looking movie. I like the premise, and I like the way that Doug Liman really shot this movie and decided to shoot it handheld. It added a lot and immersed me into certain experiences within the film. While, the movie has a lot of issues when it comes to the script, surface level characters, and the premise overall, the kind of hearing other people's voices and seeing their thoughts can get quite annoying. I wish they would have pulled back just a bit in there. There's a couple sci-fi elements that I think they could have dug into a little bit more, and when it came down to the ending, I kind of rolled my eyes at it because I'm like, okay. But again, like I mentioned, I was still entertained by this movie because it kind of reminded me of films like Jumper and Push, which I enjoy. And I think if you enjoy those, you're probably going to enjoy this one too. Just don't expect like the most amazing movie in the world, and I think you're going to walk out probably feeling the same way I did. It's entertaining. It's fine. I definitely think it's one, when looking at this entire package, it should have been way better. So with all that said, I'm going to give Chaos Walking a C. Thank you guys again so much for clicking on this. You guys are seriously all the best. Really interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Do you guys agree with me? Do you not? Let's discuss it all down below. Head on over to Samsung Films on how to see films early. And of course, it's a big thing to you and a big thing to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. So of course, until next time, stay classy.